All right, let's talk about one of the biggest goals in fitness, getting that chiseled six-pack. So many of us are putting in the hours, hitting the gym day after day, trying to get there. But what if I told you that the very thing you're doing could actually be holding you back?
You hear this all the time, right? Should I be training my abs every single day? And on the surface, it kind of makes sense. If you want to get better at something, you do it all the time. So tons of people are on the floor doing hundreds of crunches day in and day out, thinking that more is always better.
But here's the thing, that daily grind, that nonstop ab work, that might be the exact reason you're not seeing the results you want. It's one of the biggest myths in fitness, and today we're going to bust it wide open with a little bit of science.
Okay, so let's get right into it and really dismantle this whole more is better idea. Because even though the logic might seem sound, our own biology, well, it tells a completely different story.
First things first, we've got to wrap our heads around this one simple idea. Your abs are muscles, just like any other skeletal muscle in your body. I'm talking, they're made of the same stuff as your biceps or your quads. Now, think about it. You wouldn't train your biceps with heavy curls every single day, right? Of course not. You know they need a break to recover and get stronger. Well, guess what? Your abs are no different.
So to really understand why, we need to geek out for a second and look at how muscles actually grow in the first place. This isn't just some gym bro theory. This is the fundamental science of muscle growth, or what scientists call hypertrophy. And getting this process is the real key to training smarter, not just harder. And this visual breaks it down perfectly. It's really just a simple three-step cycle. First, you train. When you do that, you're creating these tiny, microscopic tears in your muscle fibers. Step 2 is you rest. This is where the magic happens. Your body gets to work repairing those fibers, building them back even stronger than they were before. And that leads to step 3, they grow. Now, the crucial part here, the non-negotiable part, is step 2, rest. If you're training your abs every day, you're basically stuck in step 1. You're just breaking the muscle down over and over and over again without ever giving it the chance to rebuild.
And look, skipping that rest phase doesn't just put your progress on pause, it can actually throw you into reverse. You're looking at things like chronic inflammation and a way higher risk of nagging overuse injuries. But get this, your core is absolutely critical for those big important lifts like squats and deadlifts. If your abs are always exhausted and sore, your form on those other exercises is going to suffer, which can tank your performance and even lead to serious injury.
Okay, so we've talked a lot about what not to do. Let's flip the script and actually build a smarter, much more effective plan. Because the goal isn't just to work more, it's to work harder and, most importantly, smarter. So, what's the sweet spot? Well, for most people, the science points to somewhere between 2 to 4 dedicated core training sessions a week. That's it. This gives your muscles the perfect amount of stimulus and then allows for that crucial 24 to 48 hours they need to go through that whole repair and growth cycle we just talked about. And it's not just about how often you show up. It's about the total amount of work you do all week. So instead of banging out hundreds of sloppy crunches every day, the goal should be to hit about 8 to 16 really challenging sets spread out across your sessions for the week. This is truly a case of quality over quantity. It's also so important to train your core through all of its functions. Most of us just think of spinal flexion, that classic crunch movement. But as you can see here, your core does so much more. It resists being bent forward, like when you're holding a plank. That's anti-flexion. It stops your torso from twisting, which is what an exercise like a Pallof press trains. And it resists bending to the side, like in a side plank. A truly strong and defined core is one that's trained in all these different ways, not just one. Now, we've covered a ton about how to train smarter, but I have to be completely honest with you. Everything we've talked about so far, it's only one part of the equation. We are about to get to the single biggest factor when it comes to actually making your abs pop. And here it is. This quote says it all perfectly. You can have the strongest abs in the world, but if they're covered by a layer of fat, you won't see them. I mean, think about that. Training builds the muscle, for sure, but it doesn't magically melt away the layer of fat that's covering it. You can build an incredibly powerful core, but if your nutrition isn't on point, those muscles are just going to stay hidden. This chart really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? When it comes to revealing a six-pack, the actual training is like maybe 20% of the battle. The other 80%, that happens in the kitchen. Lowering your overall body fat percentage through a healthy, sustainable diet is what ultimately lets those muscles show through. So let's get it straight. Training makes your abs strong, but your diet is what makes them visible.
So let's bring it all home. The takeaway is pretty clear. If you want a defined six-pack, you have to train your core intelligently, just like you would any other muscle. That means giving it time to rest and recover. But most importantly, you have to prioritize your nutrition. That is the real key that unlocks the results you've been working so hard for.
So I'll just leave you with this question to think about. Now that we've pulled the plug on the train abs every day myth, what's another piece of common fitness advice you've just been following without really questioning it? Because sometimes the biggest gains don't come from doing more, but from finally understanding the why behind all the work you're putting in.